want to say it's crazy to even be up here because I've been coming to the point here maybe 8 months, and I never thought that I would be up here because I'm an introvert. Speaking in front of people isn't really my thing, and I'm kind of new to this whole Jesus thing too. And so when I first met Joel back in, I think it was January, February, and we were just talking and getting to know each other, and he kind of said, Zeke, if you ever want to share your story one day at Sunday at church, you're more than welcome to. And I I gave him the nice Midwestern no, which is I'll think about it, like that type of thing. And so God's really been doing a lot of cool things in my life over the last few months. So last month I finally texted Joel and I said, Joel, does the offer still stand? And to my horror, he said yes. And so now I'm up here today. And one thing that I've really kind of struggled and wrestled with over the last few weeks is, what is it that I want to share with you guys today? Because quite honestly, you guys learning and understanding more about my life isn't going to change you. It's not going to grow you. But learning about the life of Jesus and his life is going to be what's going to be impactful and meaningful to you guys. And so in my planning ways, I kind of wrote out a little paragraph of, okay, this is what I want to make the point. And at the time I read through Psalm 139, which was written by David, and I thought to myself, well, he says it way better than I do. So I'd like to read that for you guys here today. I think it's going to be up on the screen somewhere. But it starts, O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from afar. You search out my path and my lying down and are acquainted with all my ways. Even before a word is on my tongue, behold, O Lord, you know it altogether. You hem in me behind and before and lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is high, I cannot attain it. Where shall I go from your spirit? Or where shall I flee from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me. If I say, surely the darkness shall cover me, and the light about me be night, even the darkness is not dark to you. The night is bright as day, for darkness is as light with you. And that's just the first 12 verses, and I would really encourage you guys to go read through all of it, because it's written by King David. And what I really love about this is he's trying to put into words, he's really just trying to describe the love and the intensity and the ferociousness that God has for every single one of us. And if there's one thing that's changed my life, it's understanding and knowing more about what David is talking about here, which is God's love and his pursuit of us. And if you're like me and you've maybe gone to church or grown up in a church, this idea that God's pursuing you isn't necessarily new. I grew up singing the song, Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. And when I look back on my life of God, my earliest memories of God pursuing me was through my parents. Because even before I was born, my parents decided that they were going to raise kids, and they were going to teach them about the life of Jesus and why he went and died on the cross and did what he did. And so from an early age, my parents, I'm one of 7 siblings. Well, it's one of 8 kids. I have 7 siblings. And we grew up learning about Jesus. I was reading the Bible. I was memorizing Bible verses. My parents were planting seeds in me that wouldn't be harvested until later. And another thing that my parents did with all of us and my siblings is they were so good at instilling values in us that have made me who I am today and all of my siblings. And one of the important things, too, was that the value of hard work and instilling a good work ethic. And I didn't really realize at the time until I got into high school and I started working. I got my first job outside of the home, and I started to notice pretty quickly that I excelled in comparison to some of the other kids that I was working with, just because of how my parents had raised me. I would go into work early, I'd stay late, I would put in the extra time to impress my bosses, and all of that was mostly due to my parents, the success that I had early on. And by no fault of anyone else other than myself, what that started to do for me is it started to build a little bit of pride in me because I had worked hard. I'm seeing that I'm standing out. I started to see myself as maybe better than the average person. And pride has this little superpower where it allows you to rationalize and justify just about anything that you want and make it seem good. And as I'm going through high school and start to go into college, I am working hard. I'm doing everything that I should be doing. And so I start making a plan for my life, my ideas. I was going to work through high school. I was going to save up money. I was going to go to college. I was going to work during college. And I was going to graduate college debt-free. I wasn't going to take out a loan. I wasn't interested in doing drugs, partying, because that's what those kids did. And I'm not one of them. And to give you a better idea of where I am spiritually at this time, I'm kind of 1 foot out, 1 foot in. I would say that I was a Christian. I'd say that I'd live my life for Jesus. But again, when I wanted my way, it's very easy just to rationalize that, oh, God's given me these talents. He wouldn't have given me these talents if he didn't want me to make a bunch of money, have a good career, and all of this. And so one of the areas that, to explain to you maybe a little bit more about this was, at the time, this was maybe junior, senior year of high school, I had met a girl and we started dating. And one thing that I really wanted is I wanted to save myself for marriage. And I wanted to keep my purity because that's what I had been taught growing up, and that's something that I truly wanted and valued at the time. But I didn't have a personal relationship with the Lord. And so without that foundation, throw a little bit of pride in there, I went very quickly from, well, I want to save myself for marriage, but is it really marriage or is it just with one person? Or can I do this and is it really going to make a difference because everyone else is doing it and things worked out fine for them? And so that was one area of my life that I started to, again at the time, just choose my way over God's way because it was easy and it was the way to go. That's what I had desired. So then fast forward going to year 2022, everything that I had planned for my life happened. I was graduating college, 23 years old, the master's degree in business, debt-free, making just short of 6 figures while in college. That was my life. It was college, work, study, and nothing else. My mission was what I wanted, and that's where I was going. And again, in this time, spiritually, not really, there was no life in me spiritually. I wanted to do the things of God, but I didn't want God himself. And God's always going to pursue you no matter what stage or where you're at in life. And so in the start of 2022, fresh out of college, master's degree, all of this, I get a job at this company that I really wanted to work for. I really looked up to the people there because they ran a good business. And I'm expecting this to go just like everything else has gone in my life. I work hard, I commit myself, I stick with it, and I quickly rise to the top. And so I get in there, and it's pretty evident right off the bat that it's a little bit different because I worked a sales job all throughout college, and sales is all about numbers and making calls, and it's very production driven. But now my new bosses and my new coworkers seem to be more interested on this thing called relationships, where they're not having meetings and discussing about how much revenue or how to increase production. In fact, they would actually make decisions for the business that would actually cost them money, but would allow them to have another interaction with their clients, or another interaction, another way that would create a relationship. And that seemed to be their focus. And that was a little bit hard for me. It wasn't significant at the time, but looking back, it was clearly God saying, there's another way to do things, because it was a different way, seemed backwards that you would do things this way, but it was also, there's something that was in there that was attractive to me, that this is an interesting way to do it. And usually a prideful person like myself would say, well, they're not, if they don't have a successful business and they're doing things for the relationship, well, that's why they don't have a successful business, because they have a bad business model. But they were successful. They were people that I looked up to, and if I was them, I wouldn't be doing things this way. So that was one area of my life that things kind of weren't turning out how I expected, and the other area was in my relationship. I was still dating this girl from high school, and keep in mind, my idea this whole time had been, I'm going to only date one girl my entire life. That's going to be my future wife, and I'm going to graduate college, get a job, start a great career, and then I get married, have kids. And now all of this is happening, and our relationship isn't going so hot. In fact, it's going the other way, and we start having talks about ending things. But for me, being the prideful person I am, I can't share that, because if I admitted that my relationship that I've had for 4 or 5 years isn't going so great, that would mean that I failed, and I hadn't failed at anything up to this point in my life, and everything that I set out to achieve, I had done. And so I'm not sharing with even my family, my closest friends, that, hey, this is probably going to end, and it's going to change my life. And to make things even worse, I start making bad decisions, because we're at a time where we're doing long distance, and it comes along this other girl that she's interested in me, and I'm thinking to myself, well, my relationship is going to end. I've lost my plan for my life. I've lost my purity, so all of it's out the window. Why does it matter anyway? And Andy Stanley has this great quote that I really love, and it perfectly describes my life at this point. It says, "It is your direction, not your intention, that determines your destination." And for me, I had wanted to save myself and keep my purity for my future wife and all of that. That was my intention. But the direction that I was heading down was not going to get me to that destination. And so it doesn't take a genius to guess where this is going. As my relationship with my girlfriend starts going down, I start talking to this other girl. She's more interested in me, and eventually I end up telling my girlfriend that I want to break up just so I can get with this other girl and not feel guilty about it. Big shocker. I felt guilty about it. And so immediately after, I tell my girlfriend what I did, and she's understandably very hurt by that. And she goes out and she gets with another guy the same day and does the exact same thing that I did. And that was probably the darkest time in my life, because I not only lost my idea, my identity had been put so much into what I was going to achieve, what I was going to have my life look like, and now that all that was out the window, I had nothing really left. And the worst part of it was that if I couldn't even tell my family and my friends that my relationship is going well, I couldn't tell them now about what I did. Because if anyone knew what I did, they would shame me, and rightfully so. That's what I deserved. Those are the choices that I made, and I was now fully experiencing the consequences of that. And the theme of this is that, just like we said at the beginning, where God is pursuing you, He was there still in the dark times for me, because I'm going on about life. Nobody else knows what I had done, how I feel on the inside. And there were actually people in my life that weren't even friends. They were probably acquaintances at the time. And eventually I just told them, this is what I did. You're never going to see me the same, but I'm not a good person. And that was another part of my life that was, the way they reacted was a little bit backwards, because I had expected them to be like, yep, you messed up. These are the choices you made. You're experiencing the consequence, and that's what happened, so suck it up. But they didn't have that response. They seemed to care. And even for me in that point, that still wasn't enough. It's like, I appreciate that you guys care, but I'm still still hurting, still carrying this burden that now I'm thinking all these thoughts of who is ever going to trust me again, who's ever going to want to be in a relationship with me again. How can I even come back from this? And I remember one night I was in my room, and I couldn't sleep because I don't know if you guys have ever experienced a big emotional heartbreak or anything like that. It physically hurts in your chest. You can't sleep. Your mind is just destroying you with thoughts. And so I'm sitting there one night, and I'm reminded of this one story that I heard years ago, probably back when I was in high school or college, about this one guy in the mafia. And this was back maybe in the 70s or the 80s, where the mafia was very hard to take down back then for the FBI because the mafia families, their members were so loyal to the family. So if the FBI caught one of them, they wouldn't divulge any information. They wouldn't share. It doesn't matter if they were put into prison for the rest of their life. They wouldn't share anything. They were loyal to the family and family first. And so what the FBI ended up doing is they got an agent and they sent him in undercover, and he befriended this guy in the mafia. And he ended up being undercover for something like 4 or 5 years, a super long time. Him and this mafia guy, they become best friends. They live their life together. They're roommates. And so after that 4-year period, when it comes out that the FBI guy is no longer he no longer needs to be undercover. They have everything they need. It comes out that he's been an FBI informant the entire time. This guy in the mafia knows what's coming to him. He's part of the mafia. That's the life he signed up for. He knows that his family members are going to kill him for what he did. He introduced an informant. And so this guy in the mafia, he goes and he's called to a meeting with his bosses, his higher up, and he knows what that means. He knows that they're going to kill him. And so he calls his wife or his girlfriend at the time, and he says, I want you to call Joe. Joe's the name of the FBI guy. He said, I want you to call Joe, and I want you to tell him that I loved him like a brother, I have no hard feelings toward him, and I forgive him. So he hangs up the phone, he walks into this meeting knowing that he's going to die, and they kill him. And so here I am thinking, how can I, even forgive someone who's actively hurting me, but also this forgiveness that this mafia guy seemed to have, he didn't even need to talk to the guy who betrayed him. He didn't even need an explanation. It was a no questions asked type of forgiveness. And in that moment was the time that all the Bible verses and all the stories that I had heard about Jesus growing up came back to me, and it was very similar. This story that I had heard of this son who goes to his father, and he says, Father, give me everything so that I can go out, and I want to do things my way. I don't want to do things your way. And his father gives him stuff. He goes out and does things his own way. They don't work out so well. And he comes back, and it says, while he's still a long way off, his father runs to him, and no questions asked. And that was the first night that I actually slept all the way through in such a long time, because that's the type of forgiveness that I wanted, that I needed, and this brokenness, all these thoughts that I'm thinking to myself of, this ruins my life, I'll never be the same again, all of those were true if Jesus hadn't died. If Jesus didn't die on the cross, all those things that I was thinking of my life would be true. I would be in sin and living the life of sin and stuck in sin forever. And so then that was a pivotal moment that got me back to reading the Bible again, except now I'm not reading it as a story or about just words on a page or good lessons. I'm reading it, and it's telling me about my life. It's telling me about the path that I'm heading down with these choices that I'm making, and it tells me where it's going to end. And I'm experiencing a little bit of where it's ending. And so now I'm faced with this decision of I can continue to make choices, continue to do things my way, or I can do things God's way. And God's way is a little bit scary because it's backwards. It doesn't make sense. And that would mean that I have to give up my plan for my life and how I wanted it to look. And I heard a song that I want to play for you guys. This was months later after the fact, but I really want you guys to pay attention to the lyrics of this, because it really explains the internal conflict that I was going through at that time. Is I know that God's been pursuing me this whole time, and he's always been offering me a better way. I've told him no. I said no deal, and I kept doing it my way. And now if there's ever a time that he should not offer a deal to me, it should be now. Yet, he's closer than ever. And so I just want to play that song for you guys. That kind of, it just really, I feel like it really does a good job of conveying that feeling of, I've been 1 foot out, 1 foot in this entire time. And am I really gonna do this? So why am I hesitating? What am I trying to hide? Why do I keep on waiting when I know what's on the other side? And that's exactly how it felt for me in that moment of, if I'm going to give my life to Jesus, if I'm going to do things his way, that means I'm signing up for a little bit of unknown, because there's something in me that says this is right, I know I should do it, but it's hard. And during that time, that was I can confidently say now, the best years of my life have been the best of my life. These last 2 years of living a life for Jesus, not because of what I have achieved, but just the fact that I get to experience his love and have a relationship with him. And that, after making that decision, I'm not going to do things my way anymore. I'm going to do things the Jesus way. The bitterness, the anger in my heart, and all the hurt that I was feeling within a few months was gone. The sexual sin, the desire to indulge in pornography and all of that was taken away from me. And it's been the biggest miracle that God's truly worked in my life. And the best thing is that this never ends. God's pursuit of us is still just as strong as it was from my parents at day one to the darkness and till now. And if you know me, you know I like analogies. C.S. Lewis has this great one that he says, letting Jesus into your life is like inviting a handyman into your home, because you have some plumbing work that needs to be done. And so Jesus will come in, he'll fix your plumbing, and you'll say, thanks, Jesus, my plumbing is great now. But he doesn't leave. He goes over to the electrical box and he starts tampering with the wiring and flipping switches and redoing that, and you're kind of like, whoa, I didn't need the electrical work fixed. And then soon he's knocking down walls and building new rooms in your house, and pretty soon your life is this entirely new creation. And that's the beauty of what I've experienced in my life these past 2 years of like Max's prayer said earlier, not just having a new heart or a duplicate or an upgraded version, but something entirely different. And so I just want to end. I was going to read this paragraph that I wrote down at the very beginning, and then we'll pray and end. So if there's one thing that's made a difference in my life, it's knowing and understanding the height, the depth, and the intensity of God's love for me. Before I knew him, he was there. When I didn't want him, he was there. When I thought I didn't need him, he was there. When I was walking in the darkness of sin, he was still there, continuously offering me a new way of life. Choosing to live my life for Jesus was the scariest and hardest decision of my life. But if I was given the chance to go back in time, I'd gladly make that decision 100 out of 100 times. Jesus died to save my life. The very least I could do is live my life for him. It is my hope and prayer that each one of you get to experience the fullness and completeness of God's love, and that it changes your life in the same way it did mine. Living a life for Jesus isn't promised to be easy or comfortable, but it is promised to be a life full of abundance, meaning, and purpose. So if there's one thing that sticks with you guys as you walk out of here today, let it be a reminder that God is relentlessly pursuing you, no matter who you are, what you've done, or where you're at in your journey. I promise that he's knocking on some door of your heart, asking to be let in. All he needs is your yes. Jesus said, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. So why am I hesitating? What am I trying to hide? Why do I keep on waiting when I know what's on the other side? Choosing the Jesus way will never disappoint. You guys pray with me? Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for loving us with a love that's endless, for a love that is so deep that it surpasses our understanding, and that it pierces through the darkness and into our brokenness when we need you the most. Lord, I want to pray for everyone here today, for those of us that are walking in the darkness and the confusion. I just ask that you open the door to our hearts to see all the ways that you are pursuing us today. God, we know that choosing your way means that we have to change. Would you fill us with your Spirit and give us your Spirit to enable us to make the hard decisions, to do things your way? We recognize that we don't know what tomorrow will bring, but we do recognize that your way is the best way and the way that leads to life. Lord, we invite you into our hearts to continue to grow us, to continue to refine us, and to lead us in the way everlasting. We pray all this in accordance with your will in your holy name. Amen.